You wake up, purple, enormous, with a chin that looks like someone glued two knees together. But here's the thing, you're not just some random purple giant with anger issues. You are Thanos, the most powerful being in the universe. You have a glove with 6 of the most powerful objects ever created literally attached to your hand. And you used it to cut the universe's population in half, because you were trying to save it. Yeah, let that sit for a second. You were the villain. Everyone called you the villain. Movies, comics, merchandise, villain, villain, villain. But here's the uncomfortable truth nobody wants to say out loud. The problem Thanos was trying to solve? It was real. The solution? Absolutely, completely, spectacularly wrong. But the problem? Real. Welcome to your life as Thanos. It's complicated. Let's get into it. We've all seen the memes, the Thanos snap, the "I am inevitable," the dramatic sitting on a farm watching a sunrise after committing the single largest act of violence in universal history. And look, from the outside, being Thanos seems kind of incredible. Infinite power, unstoppable strength, a throne on a floating asteroid, a plan so big it literally affected every living thing in existence. But here's what nobody talks about. Behind all that power, behind all that certainty, behind that enormous purple chin, there is someone who watched his home planet die, spent his entire life trying to prevent that from happening to anyone else, and then lost everything in the process of trying to save everything. Today we live one day as Thanos, and by the end of it, you might actually understand him, just a little bit. We're not saying he was right. He absolutely was not right, but you might understand the plan that made sense to exactly one person. Let's start at the beginning, because you cannot understand Thanos without understanding Titan. Titan was his home planet, beautiful, advanced, thriving, and then overpopulation, resources running out, the planet consuming itself faster than it could recover. Thanos watched this happening and came up with a solution. Cut the population in half. Random selection, no suffering, just balance. The leaders of Titan said no, obviously, because suggesting that half the population should be eliminated is not exactly a popular policy platform. So they rejected it, and Titan died anyway, exactly the way Thanos predicted it would. And here's where it gets genuinely complicated. He was right about the diagnosis. Titan really was dying because of overpopulation and resource depletion. His analysis of the problem was correct. His solution was where things went completely, catastrophically off the rails. Because Thanos looked at a real problem, scarcity, overpopulation, the collapse of civilizations, and decided that the answer was mass death. Not innovation, not cooperation, not finding new resources or developing new technology, just less people. It's like if your doctor diagnosed you correctly and then prescribed something absolutely insane. The diagnosis was right, the treatment was not. He was the villain, but he was a villain who started with a real problem and arrived at the worst possible answer. Okay, let's talk about the Infinity Stones, because this is where your life as Thanos gets genuinely exhausting. You spend years, decades, hunting 6 specific objects across the entire universe. Not 2, not 3, 6. Each one in a different location, each one guarded by someone who really doesn't want you to have it. Each one requiring a separate mission, a separate battle, a separate cost. Normal people complain about having too many errands to run on a Saturday. You are collecting cosmic artifacts across multiple galaxies, while also managing an army, maintaining a spaceship, and occasionally fighting the Hulk. The logistics alone should be a supervillain movie on their own. And the cost is not just physical. Every stone comes with a price. And the Soul Stone, the one you needed most, demanded the most brutal payment imaginable. You had to give up the thing you loved most, Gamora, your daughter. The one person in the entire universe who actually knew you, who grew up with you, hated you, eventually understood you, and you threw her off a cliff for a stone. And here's the thing that makes it even more devastating. You actually loved her. This wasn't a cold calculation. This was a man who genuinely loved his daughter, fully understood what he was doing, and did it anyway because he believed the mission was more important than everything else. That's not the logic of a monster. That's the logic of someone so completely consumed by a cause that they've lost the ability to see what it's actually costing them. He was wrong, completely wrong, but he was not without feeling, and that somehow makes it worse. You won. Now what? Here's the part of your story that nobody really thinks about. You won. You actually did it. 6 stones. The snap. Half of all life in the universe. Gone in an instant. You did the thing you spent your entire life trying to do. You achieved the goal that consumed every moment of your existence for decades. And then you sat on a farm and watched a sunrise. That's it. That's what winning looked like. A quiet morning on a peaceful planet. Alone. Watching the light come up over the fields. Most people who achieve a massive goal feel some version of relief, satisfaction, satisfaction, maybe even joy. You felt quiet, an emptiness that looked like peace from the outside, but was really just what happens when the thing that defined you is finished and there's nothing left to replace it. You gave up everything for the mission, your daughter, your army, decades of your life. And when the mission was done, there was nothing. Just a farm, just a sunrise, just you, alone, with a damaged gauntlet and the specific hollowness of someone who sacrificed everything for a cause and has nothing left now that the cause is complete. Imagine working towards something your entire life. Imagine it consuming everything, every relationship, every choice, every morning, and then imagine achieving it. And then imagine sitting in the silence of having nothing left to want. That's not victory. That's just a very expensive kind of empty. And then they came back. You destroyed the stones. You made sure the snap couldn't be undone. You made absolutely certain that the balance you created was permanent. And then the Avengers, 5 years later, figured out time travel, undid everything, and came to fight you. And here's where your story takes the most fascinating turn. The Thanos who fought the Avengers in the final battle, the one who said, "I am inevitable," was a different Thanos, an earlier version, one who hadn't yet sat on the farm, one who hadn't yet experienced the emptiness of winning. That Thanos looked at a world that had rejected his gift, that was trying to undo his sacrifice, and decided, fine, if they won't accept balance, I'll give them nothing. I'll destroy everything and rebuild from scratch. See, the original Thanos, Farm Thanos, understood that what he did was brutal, but believed it was necessary. The earlier Thanos who came through the time machine, he just wanted to win. Same person, two very different motivations. And the Avengers beat the second one, maybe because the second one had lost the thing that made him dangerous in the first place, the genuine belief that he was right. Here's something nobody talks about. You are alone. You have an army, you have generals, you have children of Thanos who follow you across the universe, but none of them know you. None of them sit across from you and see a person rather than a mission. Gamora came closest, and you killed her for a stone. Every conversation you have is about the mission. Every relationship is filtered through purpose and power. Nobody talks to Thanos like a person because nobody is allowed to. Because the moment someone gets close enough to see you clearly, the mission requires you to use that closeness as a resource. You are the most powerful being in the universe. You are completely, devastatingly alone. And the only relationship that mattered, the one with your daughter, ended on a cliff on Vormir. He was a villain. He did terrible things, unforgivable things. But underneath all of it was someone who genuinely believed he was the only one willing to do what had to be done, carrying a weight that nobody else would carry, completely alone with a conviction that cost him everything. The cause was wrong. The method was wrong. But the loneliness? That was real. So here's where we land. Thanos saw a real problem. Civilizations consuming themselves, resources running out, the same pattern repeating across every planet he'd ever seen. And he was not wrong about that part. The universe does have finite resources. Civilizations do collapse under their own weight. He was catastrophically, unforgivably wrong about the solution. Half of all life. A snap. A farm, an emptiness he mistook for peace. But here's the uncomfortable thing. In a universe full of heroes with unlimited power, nobody else was even trying to solve the problem Thanos was trying to solve. The Avengers stopped him. Good. They should have. But after they stopped him, nobody sat down and said, okay, but what about the actual resource problem? What about the civilizations that are struggling? What about the thing he was pointing at even while pointing at it completely wrong? Thanos was the villain. Absolutely. His logic was broken. His methods were monstrous, and his solution caused incomprehensible suffering. But he was a villain who started with a genuine question, and nobody else was asking it. Sometimes the wrong person asks the right question, and sometimes the right question leads someone to the most catastrophically wrong answer. That was Thanos, a villain with a point, a broken method, and a farm he sat on alone after the worst morning in universal history. If this made you think differently about him, even a little, drop a comment. Tell me which character's life you want to live next because the list is long and nobody is having a good time. Like and subscribe because honestly, the universe deserved better solutions, which it did, obviously. Yeah, that's your life as Thanos.